got a lot of horsepower up here on the stage, and appreciate the time and effort that not only that you're doing today, but that you do every single day. And I want to make sure I point that out. And I have to always start these panels, as you know, with a plea that if you have not considered public service, give it a try. It tastes great. You'll never regret it. We're going to talk later on this afternoon with the CIO and Chief Artificial Information Officer about some of the positions he's got out there, a lot of cyber positions. These folks need the help. They're fighting the good fight, and I know you all are partnering with them, many of you here.
Come on in, the water's fine.
There you go. Megan mentioned we're gonna crank through a whole bunch of questions and answers here. We're gonna stop about, I don't know, 10 minutes out, maybe a little bit more, to get some audience participation, right? We definitely want to get some questions from you all. And then we have a nice little wrap-up question we're going to ask. All right, Reshea, I'm going to start with you. Congratulations, by the way, on your new appointment.
Thanks so much.
Well
Appreciate
done.
that.
You've been in that role for a couple of months, if I recall. You were the deputy for quite some time. Came in from an operating component. We always love to see that.
Yes.
Give us a state of the state. What are you seeing up there these days? But before you do that, 30 seconds on, what is SDD? What is in your portfolio? And then talk to us about sort of what's cooking up there.
Sure. So the Solutions Development Directorate within the Chief Information Officer headquarters of DHS. I have a large portfolio of applications. Some of it includes software as a service products. It also includes the DHS Enterprise Cloud, identity services. I can go on and on, just all kinds of solutions that meet the stakeholders that are also our components, the needs across DHS. So it's a wide array of solutions. The state of the state, I would say that these days, especially regarding cloud, it's less about trying to make sure that we're transitioning off of on-prem data centers into the cloud. A lot of that work has been done, thank goodness. So more so these days, I'm looking to make sure that we're more efficient, effective, employing more automation techniques to make sure that we're doing things a lot quicker. Some things that took us months before, we're doing in hours. So a lot of those things these days, we're looking to automate versus migrate.
So using the technology rather than spending a lot of energy installing the technology, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Which is a point I wanted to catch with Carin. You are the CDO. You've been over there a while. And I would imagine that, I certainly would hope that you're not spending a lot of time wrestling with installing technology, trying to acquire technology. You're actually trying to use some of this technology. Can you tell us about some of these capabilities that you're using and then how that's enabling your operations?
Sure, and surprisingly enough, I actually am. I come from software delivery, so it's kind of in my blood. So we actually are standing up a data analytics platform out of the CDO shop because we had one for our investigation side and the immigration side, but we were lacking one for the mission and management side. And so we really saw value there, so we're trying to stand that up. But a lot of my focus is working with those solutions and the people that are building those systems and making sure the data quality is there and they're using data standards, because at the end of the day, we have to make sure that, even with AI coming, we've got to make sure the data is clean and accessible and reliable. And so a lot of our focus has been, focusing on the data that's in each one of those systems.
So you hit the bingo card, AI.
Yeah, sorry.
Are you using AI? Are you not using AI?
I think it's very early in the AI stage.
Nascent
I think
state?
across the, spectrum. I mean, there are samples of where we are using it. You can go to dhs.gov/AI and you'll see that HSI implemented an AI and machine learning to improve pictures and do some facial recognition. We're actually in 1 month be able to find over 300 new victims of child exploitation. And so you'll see that we are trying and exploring it, but there's a lot of work that we're also doing to make sure our policies and our processes are stood up and ready for that, and also making sure we have the skill sets and the resources. We want to make sure that whatever we do with AI is going to be responsible and ethical.
Fantastic. Gerri, welcome, and we really do appreciate you being here. Gerri being the Deputy CIO at the Secret Service. We know you spent a lot of time wrestling with the 18 acres and all the national partners there, very tricky environment. But we also know that you all, at the same time, have been on this modernization journey. Give us an update. We're all anxious to hear what's the Secret Service doing these days as far as modernization.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I bring you greetings from Kimberly Cheadle, the 27th Director of the United States Secret Service, and only the second woman, and our Chief Information Officer, retired Marine Corps General Kevin Nally. So we have been on a tech modernization journey for a number of years, and we are in General Nally is implementing a cloud smart strategy, and we're currently in the cloud adoption phase. And Director Cheadle has really given us our marching orders to modernize our IT infrastructure. So you mentioned AI, and just like Carin mentioned, we are also exploring responsible, safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence. We are excited about how it will help us in our dual mission for protection and investigation, and we've identified a number of areas where we think we can leverage AI. And the first one out of the gate is deterrence of financial fraud and detection of counterfeit characterization. So we're excited. We are also trying to make sure we have our boots firmly on the ground, 10 toes down, that we have the policies in place, the expertise, and the resources, because we see this as an opportunity to, one, protect our financial infrastructure and our nation's leaders, and two, just advance the federal government and our technology posture.
That's fantastic. Early adoption of AI on the counterfeit side, and the area that oftentimes gets forgotten about what the Secret Service is all about, right? It's not just, I shouldn't say just, but protecting the dignitaries, the president, et cetera. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Bill, we've all heard about USCIS and modernizing in a modern way. You all have been doing that for quite some time over there. I don't think it escaped anybody in this room all the activity that's going on in regards to various policies that have changed, various policies that may change. We were a couple signatures away from some significant policies. Give us a peek inside the building when these things are going on. Are you all in a situation now where you just say, hey, bring it on, we're just gonna turn a couple of knobs and pull a couple of levers, and voila, we're done? Or are you pulling out these systems and putting them on the operating table and saying, open heart surgery, here we go, incoming? Just what happens when you're in a more, let's say, a fairly modern environment there and are able to perhaps move swiftly or not? Maybe I'm giving you guys too much credit there. So.
Yeah. Well, at this morning's staff stand-up meeting, we were comparing notes as to who's slept the most hours in Camp Springs. So, which is where our building is.
Okay.
But no.
Sounds like more like the operating table than the turning the knob.
Of course, no surprise to anyone here who's familiar with USCIS. We are very much lean forward. We started investing in the hyperscalers and the cloud environments, agile approach, and so forth some time ago, and really that's paying dividends for us now. But first I'll say there's no silver bullet. We haven't discovered any of those. It's a lot of hard work, and really the first part of the answer is all about the people. We are very fortunate at this agency to just have really dedicated IT personnel on the federal side, of course, highly talented folks from your staff here in industry, and together we have kind of created some patterns that we are leveraging and reusing time and again. Some of those patterns that we've had great success with, of course, is agile and embracing the MVP, not trying to boil the ocean on every major initiative. But really, our key legacy solutions, we've built very modular. and we're able to kind of plug those in and reuse those and turn around rapidly for a lot of these policies that are emerging quickly. You know, some of the other things that we do, you know, we really leverage the toggling pattern in our services and solutions, and so that allows us to turn things on and turn things off very rapidly as you see the thrash in the policy making and so forth. But I'd say that, you know, we planted the tree a long time ago, and it's really starting to bear fruit, and that's my sage advice to any of these large enterprises is embrace this. The marketplace has followed well. You know, it used to be just about the cloud. Now it's about, you know, hyperscaling and integration with the products that work within the cloud. And specifically in the federal environment, those who have embraced the federal environment. All of those have come together, and we are really kind of like you were talking about at the department, we're not discovering so much as we're leveraging.
Fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that. Sounds like the hard work has paid off. Jay, industry expert in the AI space, give us a perspective of what you're seeing from the industry's perspective, particularly as you sort of look across the interagency, striped across these various capabilities. What are you seeing out there?
Well, again, thanks for having me. I love coming to these, I'll start by saying that I have the privilege of working across the federal government space, so DoD, the intelligence community, and very closely with the Department of Homeland Security. And I will say that for Department of Homeland Security writ large and for all the organizations within, it's really nice to see how forward-leaning everybody is in the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to data and AI and really starting to operationalize it. So what I see right now is there's still a lot of hype, both on the industry side, whether it's integrators or vendors, and also on the federal government side, you know, the consumers of the capabilities. We still have a lot of educating to do in terms of what AI can do and what AI can't do, right, or what it is. So that's a big piece of it. I also think that, and I've heard a few points up here today, we need to be focusing on understanding how it works, you know, explaining how it works for explainability, trust around that, understanding biases within it, if we're going to operationalize it. If you've heard me speak before, I say a lot about anybody can do sandbox data science or sandbox AI, but if you really want to operationalize the technologies that you're building and integrating, you have to have adoption from the human users, and the only way you get to adoption is if you have trust, and the only way you have trust is if you have understanding, and the only way to have understanding is make it explainable and not have a black box. So, you know, I would say to my colleagues in industry out there and the vendors that we work with, make sure that you're focusing on open systems architectures, make sure you're focusing on explainability, make sure you understand really from ingest to inference how the data is transforming, how it's being fed into the models, to the extent that you can, how the models are making decisions, and how those decisions are being utilized, because I think that's going to go a long way towards operationalizing the technology.
Really do appreciate that top line. Instead of a 10-minute, can I get a 15-minute just so I calibrate right on the back here? Got it. All right, good. All right, turbo round here. We're going to do a couple of these. Well, several of them, actually. Carin, I'm going to start with you. Top 2 priorities. You got a lot of stuff you're doing in 24. A lot of folks out here that want to help you, want to get in your head. What are your top 2 priorities for 24?
For OCIO as a whole, I'll say the mission's always at our forefront, so accelerated service delivery. How can we get services and our products to them faster so they can do their mission and be more efficient and effective? And for me personally, I've been a lot of focus on data literacy and making sure that understanding is across our organization. So we stood up a data empowerment program and making sure the data is available and accessible to everybody. And so those are the focus areas of my office.
Give me a second one for CDO. We don't care about the CIO.
I have.
CDO,
So the second one for CDO would be, I call it the data bodega. So what it is, it's really a data catalog or a data marketplace so that it's a centralized place that people can go to get data. Our data today is very siloed. And so like it's making it available, it's putting it in the bodega, so it's a centralized location. People can go see the dictionaries, know who owns it, what kind of data, see the tags, and see the APIs so they can be able to use it.
Bill, must do for 24, top 2.
I can answer that in so many different dimensions. You know, from an agency and mission perspective, and given the obvious, you know, all about the mission, it's pretty clear that, you know, 24 and for the foreseeable future, we're going to be focusing on that humanitarian mission space. And so it's all about integrating and creating more efficient processes for all of those humanitarian things that we're doing in the asylum space and so forth. The other one that's forefront, back to my morning meeting that, you know, we're checking in regularly, is the H-1B registration season starts here very shortly, and it's all hands on deck. We're introducing some really cool lean forward online accounts for organizations, as well as some other really cool things for this year's registration. And then the third piece I'll throw in is a third one there is the new fee rule implementation. You know, we have a lot of form changes and so forth that, from an IT standpoint, that we've got to integrate that into.
Do we have a new fee rule?
We do.
Fantastic. I'm sure you're happy about that.
It's a long time coming, and congratulations to a lot of hard work across town.
Off the ramen noodle diet there, right?
Well, I don't know about that. I'll defer to the CFO in that regard.
Well,
But
we
it
got
is-
Kika in the back. She's coming.
Oh, is that right? That's good.
I wanted to ask you on the asylum, but what does that mean from a system standpoint, right? You're going to enable a lot of capability there, depending on which way these policies go.
It's
in the
helping.
guts a little
It's
bit.
making that process as streamlined and efficient from a case management standpoint, from the IT perspective.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
As possible. So we're
Dipping it
talking
down
about
a
the
little bit.
global system there, and making those processes extremely efficient and productive. But as well, our Ellis platform, the global and Ellis platforms are converging and becoming more and more integrated. So reusing a lot of that capability that we built on that Ellis platform to augment that global platform. So that's really providing a lot of support, whether we're talking about activities on Southwest border or we're talking about processing 765s in the various cities across the country.
Got it. Reshea, top 2 priorities for SDD. SDD for Reshea.
Yeah, solutions
What's in your job jar
development.
for 24?
I would say, so with solutions, there are many across DHS. So with that comes some inefficiencies. So solution refinement is a big deal for me. Coming in, I'm able to take a look and see, okay, well,
When you say solutions, what do you mean by
I
that?
mean, for example, Bill just mentioned case management. You might have 5 million case management systems. I'm being dramatic, but I'm being dramatic on purpose, because there's some efficiencies to be gained to say, okay, well, maybe we really only need 3 across the department. But there are some things like that to look at. And I'm not just talking about case management. It could be financial systems. It could be other systems, especially ones that are utilized by employees or different agencies. So that would be a priority for me, to make sure that we are operating more efficiently and making sure that we are refining solutions and not necessarily paying additional costs that we don't need to, because we already solved that problem elsewhere. I want to take advantage of that. I'd also say solution usability. We have a tendency to build and build and build, and somehow we get away from the original requirements or even the end users to make sure that, is this solution meeting that requirement? There are so many more modern techniques that are being used out in industry right now that we need to actually employ in the government as well, to make sure that our solutions are meeting our end users' requirements. So I'd say those 2.
Fantastic. Gerri, top 2 priorities for the Deputy CIO.
That's an easy one. For me, it's recruiting and resiliency planning.
You heard
I'll
it,
tell you why.
recruiting.
The Secret Service, especially my office, the Office of the Chief Information Officer, we have an aging workforce. We have folks who EOD'd or entered on duty back in the late 80s, early 90s. So recruiting is important because we're seeing a retirement bubble. And resiliency planning, for those who are staying with us, we have to upscale them for the new challenges that are coming and the new technologies that are emerging. And given our state of state for the next 4 years, the Secret Service is the lead for a myriad of national special security events. So here in 2024, we have our usual suspects. We have the State of the Union address, the United Nations General Assembly, NEG Summit, NATO. But then in addition, we have the presidential campaigns, the Republican National Convention, the Democratic National Convention, and then the ensuing inauguration. In 26, we have all those same usual suspects plus FIFA World Cup. In 28, we have all those same usual suspects plus the Olympics in 28, and then another election cycle. And not to mention the unplanned NSSEs, like a state funeral or APEC, the African Leaders Summit that we recently had. Those things were not planned because we didn't know about them. So suffice it to say, recruitment and resiliency planning are my top 2 priorities.
I had the opportunity to roll with the Secret Service on 3 or 4 of those events, and I have to tell you, 1, it was a proud moment, but 2, to watch what goes on behind the scenes with those agents, interacting with state and locals and everybody else for months, years in some cases, day and night, is absolutely incredible. And once again, if you want to be a badass, there you go. Any one of these. Jay, how about from your perspective, top 2 priorities, sort of what's the demand signal? What's the boss telling you got to get done? What are the customers telling you got to get done in 24?
Sure. So the large demand signals that we're hearing from the federal government is integration and usability. So it's really, we're beyond, I started years ago with DHS actually on a data science team before they were called, data scientists, right? It was a data team. And that is not scalable. It's not extensible over time. It is so hard to find data scientists, it's not even funny. In fact, if there's any data scientists out there, go work for the government because they need, talking about recruiting, they need people badly. So what we've done is we think that you can kind of shift that paradigm onto its head and focus more on how do we, I've heard upskill or upgun or really increase data literacy. So the idea that instead of creating a whole bunch more data scientists to come into the federal workspace or the mission space or even in industry or the vendors, how about we create people who understand the missions, right? We bring people in who understand the missions or people who've already been there, and we give them access to tools and technologies that make the data science part easy, right? Make the AI, manipulating the data, doing what you need to do with it easier, so you get to sort of this core reality of self-service analytics, where you're not just going to a data team every time you need data, requesting a data call, waiting, in line for everybody else who's requesting data calls. Get it to a point where the individual mission user can access the data from their terminals, can do what they need to do with the data, transform it, run the analytics, and be on their way with their answers. I think that's number 1. And number 2 is really integration. So we have a lot of systems that are already in place across all of these agencies. We can't expect to rip and replace to create these extensible technologies. So a lot of it is how do we build into the systems that are already in place. Cloud modernization and migration is helping with that. But how do we build connectors to these legacy systems so that we can access the data and not have to replace everything? So I think those 2 are really big, that self-service piece or that upskilling piece and the integration piece.
Fantastic, and we really do appreciate that. All right, we're going to talk about, we talked about priorities. I'm going to start with you, Gerri. Okay. Let's talk about what are your, we'll call it your top barrier. You may have hinted at it. Is it, I just don't have enough people in the building, I need a bigger budget, got to get the acquisitions done quicker, all of the above?
All of the above.
Oh, come on now, there's got to be a top.
Well, actually, I would say, I think I've already foot stomped the recruiting. And if there are any data scientists in the room, please.
She's like, call me.
I would say my top barrier, because of the nature of our mission, we have a zero-fail mission. It's a no-fail mission. So my top barrier is being leading edge in technology, but not bleeding edge. So I need to lean forward enough to optimize and leverage all of the big brains out there and the emerging technologies, but not so forward that I crack my nose open, so to speak. So I am looking to tackle that obstacle, that challenge, by leveraging the partnership that I have here on this panel, and also attending, fora like this where I get to hear what other agencies and other entities are doing in the same or a similar mission space.
You probably hear where some of these folks can perhaps help you as well. Reshea, top barrier.
If I would call it can I call it a top challenge?
Challenge, opportunity, whatever
I'll do
euphemism
that.
you want to use there.
I would say my top challenge right now is growth. And
Growth. What?
Growth of, right now, for example, 25% growth I've experienced in terms of personnel in my area in my directorate in the last 6 months. 4 to 6 months, which is a lot of growth in a short amount of time. And then also with that speed of people, also comes some challenges with the technology itself. I feel like we're in an age, kind of almost like where we were back in 2000, where there's just a lot of growth in technology in a condensed time frame. And granted, everybody's talking AI and all these other solutions that spur from AI. So with that comes a lot of modernization really fast. So trying to keep up with the speed of technology and then the speed of the people required in order to implement the technology is a challenge. But I do think that there's ways to kind of work through that. Some things that we're doing is just trying to make sure that that we're communicating the types of people that we need. I mean, some folks, I get it, Gerri needs data scientists. I need a little bit of everybody. So I'll take a finance person, an analyst, I'll take an engineer, I'll take a tester. So when we talk solutions, there are so many opportunities across the board that I want to make sure that folks realize that you don't necessarily have to be a techie per se to work in solutions.
Fantastic. Bill, top barrier, opportunity, challenge, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. The daily Rubik's Cube for me is balancing the operational realities, the priorities of the mission space with all of the moving pieces involved in an enterprise. And remember, the enterprise for immigration is not just USCIS, it's across the panel here. And, what I talk to all of my stakeholders about is that regular collaboration. If you're not talking horizontally across the organization and you're touching an enterprise solution, you're missing something. And so that's my biggest challenge, is to ensure that all the stakeholders involved in these very high priorities are collaborating. So as when we get to that solution, it's exactly what we want.
Flip it around a little bit here for you, Jay, but what do you see out there as you're working with these various agencies as the biggest challenge, barrier that they struggle with?
Sure. So what I see, the biggest challenge across the entire space is, if AI is a means to an end, to get you to an answer faster, give you information advantage, or help you get a force multiplier or reduce cognitive load on individuals, everyone focuses on the AI piece. The problem starts with the data. So the biggest challenge is we have 20, 30 years of legacy data systems, very often siloed, as Carin said. That data is not in any particular standard format. It's not in any particular taxonomy. A lot of times there's no context around it, what that data might be. And so that makes it a challenge to build models as we try to move into the future to automate a lot of these decisions. And so I see the big challenge now is how do we, first of all, connect all these data silos? How do we properly label data? How do we get the correct taxonomy or ontology around the data to add context to it? And how do we prepare or transform that data to go into a computer model that can then help make the decisions that we're all sort of looking towards in the future?
You just laid it up for our CDO there.
You did. I actually would like you to come to every meeting.
Really top barrier for you at this point. trying
Yeah,
to
I would
do
say
what
there's
you're
two.
being asked to do.
Yeah, culture is a huge piece of it because, you know, there's the silos, but there's a reason there's a silo. People don't want to share. They want to protect the data. And when you get down to the heart of it, it's because they're scared. They don't have the data quality. They don't have the standards. And so they're scared by sharing the data, making it available to others. People are going to see it. It's going to air their dirty laundry. And I think, so changing that mindset and saying it's okay, it's showing an opportunity to get better. And we have to be transparent. Because that's the only way we're going to be there to create the data-driven organization. And I would say the second piece is just, you know, I'm different than USCIS. They have a great CDO, and I love Beth, and she has a huge team. But for ICE, it's a fairly new and smaller group. And so we're competing with getting funding and people to see the importance of investing in data. And, you know, that's going to lead to the AI. Like, there's so much AI, and let's create the AI teams, but you're not seeing that the data behind it is going to be what feeds into that. And so a lot of it, and I get it, we're competing with priorities like the Southwest border and, you know, the fentanyl crisis, so it's an understandable, you know, problem to have, but that's where we have to be innovative and look with our partnerships. So I'm working with the CDO at USCIS and Coast Guard and INA and the other, and CBP to say, like, how can we work together to do data literacy? How can we work together to, you know, evolve it as a data and share data? And so it's a great partnership, and I love it, but we've got to find those creative ways because, you know, for us, for ICE, the funding's not coming in as much yet for the data.
Sure, leveraging is key. All right, we're going to open it up for some questions. Got one right here. So raise your hand. We'll let the gentleman come over with the mic. Fire away. Just tell us who you are, and then.
Thanks. Phil Hassel with LMI. Question particular for Carin. The way I've seen ICE operate so far, I mean, HSI and ERO are two very, very different organizations within the same organization. And HSI really has, at least in terms of, you know, the contractual support, they've got Raven and they've got Tex working. And
Get that mic up against you. Yeah, there you go.
and they've really have made a lot of progress on the data front, on leveraging that data. When you look at ERO, and I mean, I know there's a ton of data modernization efforts going on within CIO, where do you see as the major opportunities for ERO to better leverage their data in operations and monitoring and all that reporting they do to Congress, all those things?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've tried to do a lot of rounds with the different offices with HSI and ERO. And I think for them, where they're different from HSI is being able to use and leverage the data to be more efficient, effective, help guide their decision making on the front lines. And so we've been in a lot of discussions or even working and partnering with HSI to say, how can we leverage this to be more, work smarter, not harder, right? Help the technology guide us to those decisions. So I see the want there. It's just they, again, are battling so many priorities that it's hard to like balance both of implementing the new technology and software and dealing with the crisis that's on the border and then doing this forward-leaning implementation that's needed.
Next question. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Come on, you're going to kill me here.
Right back to your tagline, and that is bringing people into government. We've just seen the recent announcement as far as the new authorities for hiring in the data area for your scientists, et cetera. You say you're understaffed. Is there real support to help you increase your staffing, or are we just in the early stages of talking about it?
Anybody can answer. I mean, for me, it's balancing. We're looking at the resources that we have, the vacancies, and putting those towards our priorities. And so it's hard. Hiring is one of our top challenges in recruiting and funding to support those positions.
Let's flip that around, too. We've got a room full of organizations here that partner with you all in a variety of ways. How can we leverage this horsepower that's out in the room here to help enable some of these priorities and unlock them? Anyone want to take a crack at that? Reshea?
Sure, I'll jump in.
What the hell, right?
I think bench strength is a big part of it. A lot of you already have contracts with us. Some of you don't. But I think making sure that you're able to bring in the kind of resources that either have already been in the government or are good candidates to be in the government. I can see you all keeping a close watch of the types of things that we're into. You see what kind of contracts we're putting out there. I do think that I've seen a lot of great support in that area in terms of bringing staff on when we need them. It's just a matter of making sure that you're able to get that bench strength up, get those folks getting clearances, ability to clear them, getting them in the pipeline. All of those things I think are great. Also, I think for us on the government side is cultural when it comes to trying to staff up appropriately. One thing when I was talking about trying to ramp up 25% over the past 6 months, that takes making sure that folks realize it's a priority, because it's almost collateral duty to some folks when it comes to making sure that we got to get the interview scheduled. You got to make time for that on top of your day-to-day jobs. Some people don't necessarily love to do that every day, but if from a leadership top down, people make time because you're making time and make it a priority. So I think it's also on us to make sure that we have a culture, as Carin said, of growth and making sure that staffing up is actually a priority.
Let me, I'm going to flip it around and put you on the spot, Bill, and then you can answer the first question. What's not helpful for this community, for you? What doesn't work? What's not helpful when you're trying to enable your mission, trying to leverage these capabilities? What doesn't work for you?
You know, I'll hit the not helpful, but then I wanted to give a bit of an optimistic answer to the first question. You know, new technology is like oxygen in the IT space. And what's not helpful is when we have folks coming in with things that are not fully implemented, fully certified, where we have disruptive technology that is creating more disruption in our space than it is necessarily solutions. And so I would highly encourage the community writ large to kind of meet us where we are and the realities of doing IT in the federal space. It's not necessarily all about just the latest tech, but it's about the tech that can enable the mission. So that's the shoot from the hip on that.
And one last question, and then I'm going to throw it back to these folks for some final words. Do we have one? Wait a minute, you can't ask a question. Mr. Pratt.
Hi, I'm Bill Pratt from the Rely Group. Well, my question is, this goes largely to Reshea, but probably everybody has a piece of this for sure. So 80% of IT spend in the O&M space, obviously SecDevOps going to the cloud, helping that quite a lot. Is that part of your ongoing planning? Because, you know, Senator Hassan is not going to stop knocking and is not going to stop sending GAO after us, but it's just one more thing that you all have to tackle. Thanks.
Thank you. I would say yes, it's still a priority. I think what I believe I need to focus on more so in 2024 is also making sure that the customers that I serve, because I serve agencies, I serve internal groups within headquarters, so I just need to make sure that folks realize that that is a part of the solution. Some folks only think of the actual initial delivery. Oh, we want that new thing, that new toy to play with, but actually all of that stuff, the SecDevOps, the pipeline automation, the automated testing, all of that stuff comes with it, and I don't necessarily know that we've communicated that well. So that's on me to do so.
All right, I can't help but notice, and I'm sure you have too, that we have 3 stellar women executives up here. And I wanted to end this panel by giving them an opportunity to just give these folks that are out there in the audience, we're encouraging to try to come in here and fight the good fight, or those that are on their journey, words of encouragement from where you sit. Gerri, first.
Wow. 3.
And with all due respect to the rest of the panel.
Bill and Jay, you going to sit this one out? Well,
Yeah.
I would say, you know, Kimberly Cheadle's vision for our agency is excellence through talent, technology, and diversity. So as I mentioned before, being only the 2nd woman to hold the post, she is on fire about bringing more women into the agency. She has a 30 by 30 campaign where she's trying to have 30% of her officers and agents be female by 2030. So my encouragement to you would be apply. And then secondly, I would say, you know, I'm that person that likes to run into the burning building. I skip to work every day. Absolutely love my job. I skip. Now, I may hobble home, but I skip in every day. So I would say, you know, go for it. Reach out and tackle that job that it seems that nobody else wants because it looks very hard or very challenging. Go for it, because we need that diversity at the table, making these decisions, implementing this emerging technology. I mean, we all know that AI brings with it some challenges regarding demographics and things like that. So that's why we need the diversity at the table as we are building these things. So I encourage you, just jump in. The water's fine. Jump in.
Jump into that building burning. That burning building. Ah, Reshea.
I will say the water's a little hot, so I'm not gonna be fake in terms of my journey. It has had some challenges, and I will be open and upfront, transparent that it's not going to be simple. Sometimes, as a woman, you are the only woman on a call with 20 men, especially in tech. But I would say, if anything, be encouraged, because that means that we need a seat at the table. We need to be on those calls. You have to just navigate it. It's a part of it. And if anything, I'm proud to be on those calls and have that seat at the table. So I would say that. I'd also recommend for women who are interested in tech, also find that mentor. I have not gotten here by myself. I have had that encouragement from leaders that are women before me in order to help me on that journey, just so I can deal with some of the things that are undoubtedly probably gonna happen. So I would just say, get a friend.
Own it, right? Carin, take us
so
away.
First of all, thank you for having us and having such a diverse group, and to Reshea and Gerri for bringing their experiences. But to Reshea's point, I mean, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I was the only woman in a room, and it's challenging and it's hard, and sometimes you want to conform and you're like, oh, I need to wear a suit, or I need to have a firmer handshake, and you try to play that role, but you have to. It wasn't until I learned to like be myself and your true self. And so one thing I would say is be you, because we all bring values and our different experiences, cultures, and whatever we have and our biases, like bring that to the table, because it's a value that's not there. And then also always don't turn down an opportunity, because if you're scared, that means you're growing. And if you think you're better than it, you're not, because every experience you're learning and growing. And I wanted to be a dolphin trainer, and here I am. And so you just never know. So just don't be afraid and just go for it. That's right. I'm having so much fun, so I don't really want to. But it's changed. And I get ICE, our OCIO group, the leadership is half women, half men. And like I see that changing, and I see, even though this room is mostly men, it's growing. The numbers are growing, and I'm excited to see that. And thanks to our men allies, because there's a lot out there. And I don't want to forget about those people that also support more women in IT.
Fantastic, and every experience is a good experience, good or bad. Thank you very much to all of you for helping us out. And a round of applause here.